count that. So my name's Julie. I oversee a lot of our growth strategy and creative launches at Waze. Prior to that, I was at Groupon. There's my Twitter handle if you want to talk after this. I began at Groupon as the first PR and consumer marketing hire. So that meant overseeing everything from building a community to getting people to love our company. I was employee, I think like 115 or something, eventually growing to 30,000 employees all over the world. So that experience of being at a startup is unlike anything you will ever do in your professional career, where you love this company and it's your baby and you're trying to get people to understand why it's so great. At the same time, if you don't do it correctly, you can fail really quickly as well. So that was something that we knew, and it was something that forced us to turn the company around from every angle to try to understand what we could do to get people to love it as much as we did. In terms of the graph up there, you can see Groupon was actually the first company, or I'm sorry, the fastest company of all time to reach $1 billion in revenue. And so that was a title that stuck with us, and then suddenly we saw our company sort of failing and our PR sliding. And so that stuff doesn't always matter. Revenue is actually not always the most important thing. A lot of it is brand loyalty, and a lot of it is the magical moments that you create with your customers. And I'll tell you how to do that. Just for fun, when you Google me, these are the 3 most common things that show up. One is an article that I did showing all the different efforts that we make for our customers at Groupon. So you can see my Google Calendar. And that's managing other people's schedules to speak publicly, talking about why we do what we do, but it's also different touch points. Every single time we touched a customer, it went on my calendar. So that's sort of a mess. The other thing is I used to work in whiskey, so I know something about selling a product that people love, even if it is really, really bad deep down. And then the last thing is that we attracted a lot of controversy at Groupon and at Waze. And one of them was a public fight I got into with Donald Trump. So if you want to know more about that, we can talk about that later. So my biggest advice to you, Dave talked about what it takes to really create a product or a company that is going to grow and succeed and be successful. For me, I look at what happens after you come up with the technology. What do we do to get it to grow? And the thing that I've seen that works the most successfully is developing a growth team. No matter how many employees you have, the common thing that everybody believes in is your alignment and your North Star. And so at Waze, what we did was we realized all of us were working towards the same goals and not really talking to each other. And when you have 150 employees and you're trying to cross the world and create maps for every single country on Earth, you have to talk to each other. And we knew that if we were to go out and hire a growth team, obviously that's more salary, that's more benefits, and it's more people to have to communicate with, which was our problem in the first place. So what we did is we built a growth team. The goal of the growth team is maximizing your strengths in a startup environment. And for those of you who have worked at a startup, I'm sure you know the feeling of being the only person who does your job. And you have all these great ideas, but you have no team. And so you know that you're not going to get very far because there's no one to help you. So the magic of the growth team is it's totally okay to be alone. You're now the expert in whatever you do. So it's one team versus a silo effort. You're not working alone anymore. It's the same mission with minimal confusion. If you don't talk to the product team, you don't really know what the roadmap is for the next 6 months. And if you don't know that, you may be going down this rabbit hole where you're so obsessed with your marketing, but it doesn't reflect what the product is going to be in a month or a quarter from now. Faster communication. How many times have you wanted something from some other part of the company, and there's only 10 of you, and you still can't get them to respond to your emails, right? If you have a weekly meeting with whomever is responsible from that department, it's really easy to get their buy-in and get them to understand why what you need is important. And then a network of advocates. So this means that, you know, it may not be common for an engineer and a salesperson to talk to each other. We hope it's not that way, but that's what happened other. We hope it's not. If you know that you're meeting weekly in the same room, you then have a senior person who sits in engineering or in sales and will carry on your message and your priorities so that you can get the resources you need. And so now it's not everyone battling for what's most important to them, it's that you're all working together and understanding what's most important. So I'll show you what this looks like at Waze. This is our growth team. Keep in mind, none of these people were hired to do growth, none of them. They were hired because they're experts in Facebook ads and purchasing digital advertising. They were hired because they're fantastic at data analysis. They were hired because they're really good at sales and they're great at developing government partners for us. And so for those of you who can't see all the distinctions up there, we have sort of our captain of the team, our partnerships, so these are people traditionally in sales and in business development. Marketing and PR, so you do all of this great work and you have all of these achievements in terms of new launches and new partnerships, but what do you do after that? Obviously, you have to spread this news and get it out there in social media and in the press. Product, super important. We want to make sure that we always have someone going back to product to explain why we need a new feature or how it's important to retaining users. And don't forget, growth is also, it's not necessarily new users, it's also active users. If people download you once and then they never try your app again, that doesn't really work well, does it? And you're not going to get any recommendations after that. Operations and friends. The friends box is probably the most important thing that we have. One is an advisor who's very senior at Waze. He was one of the first employees and knows everything you could ever want to know about our company. So if we ever question a strategy or how important something is, it's not really effective for us to email the CEO when he's very busy, but that's his number two, and it'd be really easy for him to give us a gut check and let us know how we're doing. And then business intelligence, you know, the department that everybody wants to talk to. Obviously, if you put in all this effort and you are growing, it's not good enough if you just feel it. Like, we need the numbers. We need to know we have new downloads. We need to know how often people are being activated. So this is sort of the global team. We all report to different people within the departments that we work in, but we come together once a week. We have one person who keeps us on task and on deadline, and we all make sure that we're working together towards the same goal. So here's some questions when you're building a growth team. The first one, when and why do people use our product? We already know people use Waze, that's fine. We know people use Groupon because they're the fastest growing company of all time. But how are they using it? With Waze, obviously, we hope they're driving when they use us for navigation. But if you think about it, really the two instances are traffic and weather. And so knowing those two insights will change the way we reach out to people and when we do. New audiences. So if we want to grow, we need to reach people who haven't used us before. With Waze, it was news reporters. We knew that we had traffic and weather information that no one else had because we were getting information from our users on the road. So that seemed like a good audience for us to identify and grow. And I'm sure you could identify one too in your company. Who are our most vocal users? This is natural growth hacking. These are the people who want to be your ambassador. They probably want to work for the company. They want to talk about some amazing experience they had with you. So you need to make it really easy for these people to do this. And you can't just expect to tell them to do it on Facebook or on Twitter. You need to understand what they're already doing every day so that you're not focused on changing their behavior. You're just giving them one more thing to share. And then the last part, and this can be tricky depending on the company, but how can we adapt either our product or our marketing? And I'll show you a few ways that we do that. So the formula is sort of, in my mind, for growth, is engagement with users at every turn, constantly be talking to them and giving them ways to talk about you. Product optimization for growth. Again, hard to do, but I'll show you some examples. And then internal alignment. And if everybody's on the same page and you're able to sort of work together towards that one mission, that's going to be great growth. Okay, so here's an obvious example. I don't know what kind of torture device that is that Groupon is selling for that poor dog, but you can see in the corner, it's a great deal, I'm excited about it, I can share it on social media, fine. But what about referrals going a step further? So we've all shared something expecting €5 back, €10 back if you recommend this website. But nothing ever happens after that. No one actually signs up for this stuff, and you don't want to ask your friends, Dave, remember when I emailed you about eBay? Did you sign up? Do you remember? Like, that's annoying. We don't do that. This site, Rocket Miles, is this awesome site where you buy hotel discounts and then you receive airline miles. And it works for any country. You guys should totally sign up. It's great. But if you see where the circles are, I send out referrals on my social network, and it tells me which ones have been signed up and which ones are still out there, meaning my friends didn't use the product. That is awesome information because it reminds me I should probably send out my referral again, right? And number two, I should probably talk to my friends and tell them what a great experience I'm having with this company because I get miles back if they sign up. So it's a referral, but it's a referral that's 2 steps further. And that's what we want to do. We want to be constantly talking to people at times that they don't expect it, but feel very natural. Here's a couple more. LinkedIn just added this box where they're notifying me that a friend got a job, and if I want to, I can like it or comment. I don't particularly care that she got a new job, but it's the reminder that she's in my network and that I have a way to reach out and contact her if I need to. On the other side, when I landed in Chicago, I had information telling me what time I had to make my connection thanks to TripIt. So I didn't even touch the TripIt app. They reached out to me. They updated me on my day and gave me services that I wasn't expecting. So all of these conversation points create these magical moments that will then encourage me to tell my friends about what happened, share it on social media, or even just use the product again. And again, remember, growth hacking is also about just active users. Here's an awesome slide I spent a lot of time on, if you can't tell. But the example is that this lends itself to all different industries. If I go to a concert, I want to be able to take photos and upload them all to a cloud with all of the other users. Why can't we do that? How come when you show up, you have to scan your ticket and then there's this disjointed process? The user experience is what creates growth. If I go to an awesome restaurant, why can't I take a picture of my meal and blast it out on social media straight off of the menu? They're all using iPads now. Like, why isn't there any connectivity there? And these are all little hacks that would encourage me to share my experience without doing anything drastic. So the next part that I think Waze does particularly well is we've actually optimized the product for growth. So if you didn't know, France is actually a top 3 market for Waze out of 200 countries. So way to go, that's all thanks to you guys. It's a really big and really important market for us. So you can see this is what the product traditionally looks like. Navigates, gets you to your destination, and provides you updates on different traffic. But if a reporter wants to use this, it's not very helpful. I can't see where the accidents are. I don't know which one is the most important in San Francisco or in Paris, and it's just a lot. And so remember, when the growth team looked at what our biggest audiences were to grow, we thought, reporters. So it seemed a little crazy, and it took some buy-in from our CEO. We actually built an entirely separate product just for these reporters. And on top of that, we give it away for free, which seems insane, except that it looks like this, and we now have 80 partners in 10 countries around the world. And so obviously this looks very different than the app you see on your phone, but it was really quick for us. We created a product that you can use on the iPad, which was more natural for a reporter on TV. We took away all of the advertising, and we made it very easy for them to see the information they needed to make a better traffic report. Another example, we knew that local police could use information the next time that there's a crisis. So instead of saying to the police, you should really call us when you want this information, we proactively created WhatsApp groups, and we regularly contact them. We send them images from the road. The police then send us information about just pictures they're seeing and where people are congregating. And in real time, we go in and we hack the map and make sure that it's updated. And so these are relationships that we've built ahead of time and ways that we've manipulated our product to make it easier for people who we know will use us in the future. Another example, during the World Cup, we wanted a way to really push active and new users. And we knew that being in Brazil was going to be a nightmare during the World Cup, of course. We also know that they have the Olympics coming, and so we want to build these relationships with users. So we had an entire campaign where we uploaded celebrity voices from the people who report the soccer or the football news. And so, they're yelling goal and getting everybody to their destination, and we built that into our app. So it was a free feature, people loved it. We also put little soccer balls on the road where you could get different points. And as we all know, Wazers love points because that means that you rise higher in the service. So this stuff seems very surface, and you say, okay, who cares? But I'll show you why we care. Here's our engagement of active users. So when we first sent out the news about the World Cup game, you can see it spiked, and we had 2 million more active users than we normally do. 2 million people around the world decided that they wanted to play with us for the World Cup. And then when we did it again, we went up another 500,000, and then finally 3.5 times where we were normally operating. So this is a difference of millions of users. And even for an established company like Waze, we need to figure out ways to sustain this growth and to continue to play with people. Here are some more figures. We had a 9 to 11% increase in app downloads, our highest amount of daily active users ever from doing this campaign, where everybody wanted the chance to drive over the soccer balls and everybody wanted the chance to have a crazy voice tell them how to get to work. 1.2 million people downloaded these special celebrity voices. 1.2 million people participated in the soccer game, and we had more than 110 million media impressions just in Latin America, which is pretty high. And then one more, you can see 65% of our active users in Brazil played this game. So I wouldn't discount things like gamification or things that may seem silly because it's on the surface, because if your users really love you, they're looking for more and more ways to engage with you, and it's up to you to deliver those opportunities. And then finally, probably the ultimate way that we have hacked our product is by letting the users develop the product themselves. So how many of you know how Waze actually gets its traffic? We have the drivers, but did you know about the other community? No. So thanks to you, every time that you drive with Waze, we're getting your passive traffic data, and we're able to tell how fast you're going. Sometimes you report accidents or police presence, and we really appreciate that. But if there's a problem with the map, who fixes it? I live in New York. I am not fixing your map for you. There's no way. However, it's important to you, and that's why we have local map editors. We have 200,000 local map editors all over the world. And these are people who we've trusted to go in and edit the map themselves so that it's accurate. So perhaps the best growth hack we had was we trusted the general public with our product, and we said, go ahead, develop it yourself. So here's an example of what the map editor looks like. Anyone can sign up and do this. In about 5 to 10 minutes, you'll learn how by watching some YouTube videos in your local language, and you can sign up. And so starting out, you can only map maybe 1 kilometer around your house. The more and more you do, the more rights you receive. And so by doing this, people become engaged with our product so much that it feels like it's theirs. And yes, they're volunteers and they're not paid. They organize themselves, they have their own conferences. It's more than a hobby, it's actually a passion. And for a lot of these people, it's sort of a democratic right. Like, you deserve to have a great map in your neighborhood. And so that's what these people are doing. And you can see we made it really easy to learn how to edit the map. So you have a kind of a hazard symbol, and that's an area that a driver told us the map wasn't working. And so the editor gets an email, they can swoop in, and they can then begin changing the map. And here's another example of what that looks like using Street View. So the point is, do whatever you can to reach people in the way that they want to be reached. Take a look at your company from different angles and figure out what might work best for you. And again, here's that formula for you. I think it's the 3 pieces: product, engagement, and internal alignment. So that's it. Thanks.